Good evening, everybody. We are so delighted to have you join us for our vegan virtual cooking class. This is the second class that we have done, so we're still learning some of the things. We're doing it by a different medium this time. Last time we did it by Zoom. This time we're doing it by Facebook. But we're just so glad, not Facebook, YouTube. Excuse me. I get mixed up. Anyway, YouTube. And we're just so glad that you can be here. You can communicate with us while we are doing this, and Lou is going to tell us how you can find where you can put in questions or comments. So if you have a question, we would really like you to communicate that so that we can make sure that you understand just what we're doing.
So as you all are watching right now on YouTube, there is a live chat option, and it'll appear here in our room. We'll be able to see it. But if you look on your YouTube stream, if you're on your phone, you can actually see live chat. I don't know if my wife can zoom in close enough. You see the option?
That's the wrong way.
Right in, this is really hard to do backwards. There's a live chat option. Anyways, so you can live chat, and if you type in there, you can text your questions that'll appear here on the stream, and we'll be able to answer them for you. We're so glad you guys are watching with us. Thank you.
We're excited because literally people from all over, not just all over the country, but we have people that have signed up from Great Britain, from Australia, from Mexico, from Canada. So that's kind of cool, and a lot from here in the States. So we're just so pleased that people have responded to our advertising. Let's open our cooking class tonight with a word of prayer, and then we'll get started with the recipes that we've got to show you tonight. Loving Father, Lord, we just thank you and praise your name for all the wonderful foods, the different tastes and flavors and textures that you've provided for us to enjoy. Thank you that you've also shown us what is good for our bodies, to keep them healthy and strong, to keep our immune system strong. I pray that you will be with us tonight. Help us to present with clarity so people will understand and get some new ideas about how they can cook and eat more healthfully and keep their bodies strong. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to do actually three recipes tonight, and one's kind of two because there's two parts to it. But the first one that I'm going to talk about, and I need my granddaughter to come over and get the things that I need. She's doing another duty right now. The first one is a vegan peanut butter pie. I'm going to show you, I've already done the crust because we decided we didn't want to waste, and you kind of have to chill it, and I didn't know how we could get all the time to do that, but here's the Oreo crust. It says to take, and by the way, hopefully you have downloaded the recipe so that you can follow along and make notes while we're talking, but the recipe calls for 28 Oreos. Obviously, I did not do double stuff. I got just the regular sandwich Oreos, and I put them in a food processor and just let it go until it was pretty fine. I made a trial one first for this weekend, and on this one I did it a little bit finer, and I think it worked better. So don't hesitate to let it really go until it's pretty fine, and then you put the butter in and freeze it, and it really stays together nicely. When we served the pie this weekend, it served up really nicely. It was easy to do. So it's for the crust, it's 28 Oreo cookies crushed, a little bit more than crushed, a third cup of a vegan butter. I happen to use Earth Balance in that. All right, so can you bring me those two cans? All right. So the filling that we're going to do calls for making your own whipped cream. Now, you could do this recipe the hard way, making your own whipped cream, or you can do it the easy way and just buy one of those little tubs that you can get at the grocery store. But then you have to worry about the additives and things that they put in there. I'm going to go ahead and do the coconut cream and whip it and everything just like it says on the recipe tonight. This was something new I had never done before, but it was kind of fun. So if you like to learn new things, this is your time. I am using Thai Kitchen coconut cream, and you have to, it's absolutely vital that you do exactly what they say. Chill it overnight. In fact, We're going to send you a link to a demonstration of someone doing a coconut cream, whipped cream, and they say to do it, chill it for a couple of days, and that certainly doesn't hurt. I had to speed mine along. I threw it in the freezer. Today, this one has just been in the refrigerator for several days. But when you open it up, you'll find that there's a hard white cream that's all kind of floated to the top, I guess, because there is liquid in the can. But there's what it looks like. It's solid. And you take a spoon and scoop this out, and that's what you're going to whip. And you want to be careful when you get down toward the bottom of the can, because all you need is the cream. You can see it's really, really thick. I mean, it's pretty hard. When you chill it long enough, that just means that all of the cream actually separates from the liquid, and you can use all of that cream to make your whipped cream with. I noticed on the recipe it also warned that you needed to have full fat coconut cream. I didn't happen to find one that wasn't full fat, so I didn't have to worry about that, but just in case your grocery store might have it, that's one thing you have to look for, because it's not going to whip up like whipped cream if you have a not a full fat one that you picked up. So you leave all that watery stuff. I don't think you can probably see it.
Yeah, it's a bit down. You gotta look at it.
There we go. It's about a fourth of a can is still full of the liquid. So another thing that they say to do is to chill. I chilled the bowl, and I also chilled the beaters. So I'm using a different mixer tonight than I'm used to, because mine keeps shorting out, and I didn't want it to short out the whole program tonight. So I'm going to beat this, and we'll beat it just for maybe a minute and a half. It and scrape it down a little bit. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of flying all over here. When I did it at home, I did it with a stand-up mixer, and that worked great. Then the second amount that I did with a hand mixer, and I thought it worked just fine. So you can do your choice. According to your recipe, we're going to add creamy peanut butter, and of course I bought some natural peanut butter. Natural Peter Pan is what I'm using, creamy peanut butter. And the second thing that we're going to put in there is some powdered sugar. So if you did decide to do this the easy way and just get one of those tubs, I might use some of the powdered sugar, but I don't know that I would use all of it. It calls for a cup. I'm just going to put the peanut butter right in here with the coconut cream. Thankfully, my peanut butter is just room temperature, so it'll be a lot easier to handle. But then we're going to need to chill this pie so that we can serve it at the end of the program, and you can see how nicely it comes out of the dish. Hopefully this is something that maybe you can do special for Valentine's Day, since this is the month for Valentine's Day. One thing that they said too is if it gets too thick, and this is kind of thick, it's much thicker than what I had the other day, you can add some of that liquid that is at the bottom of the can to make it a little bit thinner so it's easier to mix. We're going to need the cleaning crew to come in after this because it's splattered everywhere. I guess I should have done a larger bowl. I didn't do a larger bowl because, you know, when you do whipped cream, you want a deep bowl, and I wanted to make sure I could really, really beat it up nicely and get that volume, which is harder to do in a big bowl, but we're married to this now, so that's what we're doing. It's kind of everywhere. All right, let's put the powdered sugar in, and then that's all there is to it. It's really pretty simple. I think that might be a good idea. My daughter's telling me that I need to stir this in a little bit, maybe with a hand. Woo. Well, maybe we could finish this in the back. Anyway, if you buy the large package of Oreos, you'll have some to enjoy because there's 48 cookies in a package, and you'll have 20 left over, right? So, all right, Yvonne's going to bring her things out. I'll go back and see if I can make this work back there and not. I'll do it in the sink so that we don't have things splattering all over. I'll come out and show you when I put it in the pie dish, okay? Could you grab that tray?
Hi, everybody. I'm Yvonne Mickens, and I'm going to demonstrate the Mexican lasagna. I know everyone loves a great lasagna, but I have a story to tell you about this dish. It was an accidental creation. It was originally called a pinto bean casserole, but I thought, for presentation, that's pretty boring, right? Mexican lasagna sounds much better than a pinto bean casserole. And what happened was, I had some leftover pinto beans, and they were from a friend of mine, Brenda Reynolds. We have a potluck, well, before COVID, we had potluck every Sabbath. And she always had, from scratch, prepared different beans, and pinto beans was one of her favorites, and she had told me how to fix them. But I always hung around when she had a fellowship lunch to get leftovers. And so one particular Sabbath, she had plenty of pinto beans left over, and I said, well, do you mind if I take some of them off your hands? And she said, sure. So she filled a nice tub for me. And so I took them home, and I ate some, and I thought, gosh, this is more than I'm going to eat, and I didn't want to really freeze them. So I thought, well, I have some Mexican rice, or Spanish rice that I had left over in the freezer, and I had the corn tortillas for some other reason. I always have the Daya cheese or something like that around and other stuff. And so I said, oh, why not make a lasagna casserole or something like that. And I'm a Weight Watchers lifetime member, so I'm always trying to figure out how to make extremely tasty food friendly for my points. And so that was another part of my story. And so that's what I did. So,
Can I put this in there real fast
sure.
and show
Oh, that
them?
is so pretty.
And you know what? It didn't fly all over the place back there. Of course. Anyway, with the whipped cream and the powdered sugar,
Kind of all pulled together, huh?
it did.
It's beautiful. You can just eat
Really?
that by the bowl.
Exactly.
Oh.
As you can see,
That is
it'll
crumble.
fill this nice little pie crust real nicely.
Oh, my.
I'm gonna go, you're supposed to chill it while you're doing the next steps,
Mhm.
which I'm gonna do after Yvonne is done with her part. But I'm gonna stick it in the freezer so that hopefully we'll speed it up just a little bit. So
Right.
there you go.
Are you going to lick the spoon?
Susie and I are while you're talking.
Okay, can I see that far? Can you read it to me?
I was just going to say, I can read that to you for you. So Carol has already sent a message question in. What can you substitute for McKay's chicken-style seasoning in the potato primavera that is vegan? She's unable to find it here.
Well, there is a vegan McKay's, and we have it here.
But she says she can't find McKay's.
We have it here. Carol may not be from here. Oh, find out where she's from.
So Carol, where are you from?
Yeah, Carol, the one thing where we were saying behind the scenes here is we actually sell it here in our church. There is a vegan McKay's out there, but I don't know if it's everywhere. We do sell it here within our store.
Yes, it is a hard product to find.
But there's lots of chicken seasonings.
Yes, there are a lot of other chicken-style seasonings, and for McKay's, I guess you can just use that, is it better than bouillon? You can use something like that. You can make your own if we're being really thoughtful. I'll try to remember. I know I have some recipe books that show you how to make your own. Yeah, mock McKay's chicken style seasoning. So I'll try to remember to do that and have that for us for the next time. Okay? All right. Okay, so getting back to the Mexican lasagna. Now, my husband loves Spanish rice, and so I was just trying to find a really good recipe. This was, way back when. And I found this one in a cookbook, and it's really tasty. The problem that I was having was, it was one of those recipes, vague recipes that says 1 onion chopped, 1 green bell pepper chopped, 4 stalks of celery chopped. And I'm like, that was the reason why it was working sometimes and sometimes not, because, we have onions that are big as my face, and you have some that are, little peewees, and you have stalks of celery as long as my arm, and then you have some as long as the little baby's arm. And bell peppers, there's some really huge ones and some not so huge ones. So what I did for this time, just to make sure it worked out well, I did 1 cup chopped each. And I was amazed to how little of a product made a cup. So 2 Roma tomatoes made a cup. 1.5 stalks of the celery that's as long as my arm made a cup. And 1/2 of a bell pepper made a cup. So I doubled the recipe because my husband loves it so much. And so I wanted to make sure we had some here and had some for home. I can't cook food and not have, take it out of the house and not have some for home. So, so that's where this recipe came from. And also, in looking at the Spanish rice recipe, it says there's 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. You can use water. You can do a water saute, and it will do just fine. Some people are oil-free, so you can make it that way. And this freezes extremely well, so when you make it, because you're doing so much chopping, go ahead and double the recipe and just freeze it, and that way you'll have it for whenever you need it in the future. Also, the vagueness of this recipe is, it doesn't ever tell you how long to saute things or whatever, so I mentally did a mental time for it. 5 minutes for the saute of the onion, celery, bell pepper, and garlic. Then you add the chili powder and cumin, and do that for about 2 minutes, because it takes about 2 minutes to get it really fragrant. And then when that's done, then you add the tomato, salt, oregano, and pepper. And it says when the tomatoes are cooked through, it only takes about 2 minutes. But you're constantly stirring, but not doing this crazy thing, but just stirring your pan. And then you stir in the warmed rice. Or if it's not warm, it's okay. Just stir it in, it'll do its own thing. So, but that's the Spanish rice recipe. Okay, so let's get to the actual. Oh, I have one last comment. The beans, you can use any bean. I love pinto beans in this recipe, but if you don't have them, just find your own, your favorite bean, canned bean. These are, I think Bush's is universal, right? Bush's beans, okay. So I went ahead and chose this, and it's mixed chili beans, kidney, and pinto. This is the mild chili sauce. They had white chili beans, they had black chili beans, they had red chili beans, so just whatever you like, just use it. But make sure to heat it through for maybe a half an hour and let it kind of evaporate some of that fluid that's in your beans, because you don't want soupy lasagna. Okay, so the recipe says we need 4 organic corn tortillas cut in half. And I find it would be better to do the enchilada sauce. Enchilada. Or is it enchilada? Guess it depends on what part of the world you're from, right? Okay. So I'd say enchilada. I'll be a little sophisticated. So I'm going to put a 1/4 cup in the bottom of the pan. Oh, first I'm going to spray it with a release agent. Sorry about that. Oh, let's do a juggle here. Hold still, hold still, hold still. Okay. And you probably could get away with not doing it, but I hate things to stick. And this is, I got this from one of the local stores. It's an organic, nonstick olive oil spray for fat-free cooking, free from artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives, because it's amazing what they put in food nowadays. So I will put that in there. This is a 1/4 cup, and just kind of roll it around, just so you have a good base. Okay, so what I'm going to put, why I have this plate is to do the corn tortillas. So I am going to first slather and then cut. It does easier. And I'm doing an 8 by 8 inch pan, and this does serve 4 hearty servings. So, and these fit perfectly on the edge of the pan. So that's why you want to cut them in half like this. Now, if you want to make the recipe larger in a sheet cake pan, you can, and just double it. That 9 by 13 inch pan, you can do it that way, but you would probably just do a 2 per side. So you can see where it perfectly lines the pan, so you're good there. And it says layer 3/4 cups of the rice. And these are culinary scoops. Barbara called them ice cream scoops, but I'll be a little bit more sophisticated. I call them culinary scoops. Yeah, we're sophisticated tonight. So I'll put the rice on. And then just press that down. This is a very simple, it's the pre-prep that takes time. The actual, well, if you've made lasagna before, you know that it's getting everything ready that takes the time. It's not the layering of the noodles and the sauce and the ricotta and all, whatever else you're going to put in there. Okay, and then we have 3/4 cup of beans. And I cooked these, I won't say cooked, I simmered these for about 30 minutes just to get some of that extra moisture out of the beans. And spread that around.
Yvonne, if you'll move that enchilada sauce, I'll be able to see your dish for that. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Then we can zoom in.
All right. Yeah, I guess it's kind of messy over here. Okay. And then the Daya cheese, I don't know what, is Daya a universal kind of, I'd say whatever your favorite vegan cheese is. I know some of those, I mean, way back in the day, I thought I was doing a vegan cheese, but it had casein in it, which is a milk protein. And so just read the labels if you're really wanting to be careful. Just read labels. This is a ample heaping 1/3 cup. And so that's that. And we do it one more time. And that's it. And trying to think of any more. Are we having any more questions about anything coming through yet, Lou?
Not at this point.
You guys are so quiet out there. That's okay. That's okay. But yes, this is we're getting used to being virtual. So we hope that you'll get some really good tips from what we're doing. We try to bring very tasty recipes. I call Barbara, she's the flavor queen. Everything she makes is really good. And I think her grandchildren and the rest of us, and children, and son-in-law can attest to that she makes extremely tasty food. So let's do another 3/4 of a cup of the Spanish rice. And this rice is good for any, I mean, it doesn't matter that it's a Spanish rice, it's just a good side dish. It's my husband's favorite rice dish, and he had it yesterday with hot dogs. He had it today with chicken. He's not vegan, of course, but that's okay. But he said he sprinkled it with smoked paprika, and it really transformed it. So, and he's a better cook than I am. He's more of a gourmet, He's really the sophisticated person, the two of us. So, so this another 3/4 cup, and you see that it really makes a really nice sized dish. Okay. And we do one last slather of cheese. Sprinkle it on there. And basically every ingredient is done. So you're really not cooking anything. You're just trying to get everything just to meld together, especially the cheese. And so I usually just, I'm one of those strange people who don't like aluminum foil touching my food. So I usually spray with, I use parchment a lot. So I'll put this on first, I'll layer it on top, and then I'll put the foil, and then I'll put it in the oven. Yeah, it protects it. So that's it, and we will bring it back out when it's done and set, and we will top it with guacamole and sour cream. Yeah.
What y'all can't do is smell it. Oh my goodness, it smells good. Really good. Okay. The recipe that I'm going to be demonstrating now is the potato primavera. And I want to show you the cookbook that I got this from. It's one of my favorite cookbooks that I've used for years. The name of it is Choices, and the reason it is called Choices is because all the recipes tell you how to make it just vegetarian or vegan. And actually, it would be very simple to make it neither one if you wanted to. But I really like that about it because they tell you how to, it kind of gets you into the groove of knowing what to substitute and what you can do with the different things. So potato primavera, one of the first things we're going to do, I have chopped up, if you're looking at your recipe, it calls for 4 large russet baking potatoes. Now, what is large? My potatoes that I did aren't real big. They're the biggest ones I had, but certainly a big potato because this is going to be your meal. And then it calls for 2 cups of broccoli florets, and it says there to make them, not make them too small because of course when you cook them, they'll fall apart and they won't look nearly as pretty on your plate. So I've got the florets. It calls for 2 cups of cauliflower florets, 2 cups of sliced carrots, 1 cup of sliced onions, sliced thinly, and I tried to, 1 cup of sliced onions that are sliced pretty thinly, as you can see. I'm just dumping it all in this piece of Tupperware that is a steamer. And then last but not least, 1 cup of zucchini slices. And as you can see, it's going to be really a colorful dish when we get it all done. So I'm going to pass this off to my kitchen help. There we go. Before I go into the next thing, I'm going to talk a little bit about, we usually try to do a health talk, and my health talk lady isn't here tonight. So I thought, well, what could we do? We had talked about maybe telling some things about COVID that you don't always hear on the news, dig up some facts that people might not be aware of. And so one of the things that a lot of people are wondering about is whether or not they should get the vaccine. I want you to know, I got mine a week ago, and I'm still alive. I'm still fine. You know, even if you understand the scientific process, if you have a lot of faith in medical experts, and if you believe in all the good that vaccines have done, you still may have questions, and that's okay, because we all should question and make sure that we're doing the right thing with our bodies, especially because there's so many rumors floating around on the internet. It's totally reasonable to ask constructive questions with an open mind. And then we have to make sure that we're going to the right sources to get answers. So anyway, there were some things that I found that I thought were interesting that helped me make the decision as to whether or not I was going to get the vaccine. Here's some myths that are going around. I chose 4 out of 9. We can't trust COVID-19 vaccines because they were rushed. Well, it's true to a degree that they've done them a little bit faster than they normally do, but they didn't skip steps along the way. They were able to have a huge group of test people. Normally, the FDA requires them, the average amount of people that they test a vaccine on is 27,000 people. The Pfizer vaccine was tested on 44,000 people. And that's a good cross-section of the country. And then the technology that was used. A lot of people are afraid because it's a new technology and they've never done this before, and it's true, they've never used it in a vaccine before. But the neat thing that I found out was that they've been using it for 15 years in cancer treatments. So they've been using it on people. They just haven't used it in a vaccine before. So that made me feel a little bit better about it. Both Pfizer and Moderna are based on mRNA. You've heard of DNA, RNA. What's the little M stand for? Messenger. Isn't that a cool name? Apparently it goes in there and gives messages to the cells to make the antibodies so that you can be protected. And we can also hopefully trust. The FDA has tested this and has looked over with an independent panel of vaccine experts and closely scrutinized all the data that they presented. Not only that, but other countries have also tested and looked at it with their committees. So that gave me more confidence as well. Okay, the vaccine, myth number 2, the vaccine will give me COVID-19. There isn't any COVID-19 in the vaccine. There is none at all. There's not even dead cells in there. It's just teaching your body to make antigens so that it can fight COVID. All right, here's another one that I know you've heard. These vaccines will alter my DNA. Well, none of us would really want that, would we? We know that scientists are trying to figure out how they can alter DNA, but they're not quite there yet. Don't want my DNA altered. Well, here's the good news. It doesn't go into the nucleus of the cell, so there's no way it can have any effect on your DNA. It stays in the cytoplasm of the cell. Here's myth number 4. We don't know what's in these vaccines. Well, you know, when I went to get my shot, they gave me some papers that were put out by Pfizer, because I happened to get the Pfizer shot, and it lists all of the ingredients right on there. They've been published, so it's very well known what is in these vaccines. One thing I thought was interesting too, you know, why in the world do they have to have it so cold in the deep freeze, you know, at such extreme temperatures? Well, the reason is because there's no preservatives in it. You know, a lot of us are concerned about all the preservatives that are in the foods that we eat. Well, there's no preservatives in the Pfizer vaccine, which is why it requires a deep freeze. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about, they strongly urge people to don't assume when you get some symptoms that it's just my allergies. Go to get tested. I've been tested twice. Once for a study by University of Louisville that they asked me to participate in, and I was really scared. I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. I've heard these terrible stories. They tickled my nose. That was the worst it got. But anyway, the second time, I had some symptoms, and so I went in to be tested. And when they took me into the critical care clinic, into the room, he scooted the chair back against the wall, had me sit down, lean my head against the wall, and I thought, oh my word, this is going to be terrible. But again, it really wasn't bad. Don't be afraid. Not as bad as they make it out to be. Anyway, research has verified that the vaccines, once you get vaccinated, you get 50% protection after the first dose, and of course 95%. Doesn't take effect for a few weeks, but doesn't build it up. And if you've tested positive in the past, you can still get vaccinated. That'll just make you all the more resistant to it. The efficacy of both vaccines is similar, but they're not interchangeable. When you get the vaccine, they'll give you a little card, and that's what you bring the next time for your second shot. In fact, for us, my husband and I both, they made appointments right away for us for the second vaccine shot. And they gave us these little cards which shows exactly what we got so that we get the same vaccine the second time around. So, and then here's an important thing too. A friend of ours is a doctor, and she, when we thought that I might have COVID because I had some symptoms, she said, well, be sure if you test positive that you get the antigens, because antibodies. Thank you. Not antigen, antibodies. Thank you. I've got some people helping me here. Anyway, there is an antibody infusion that can be provided to any COVID positive individuals over the age of 12 that have certain symptoms. If you're over the age 65, you can get it. And if you have certain other things such as diabetes or immunosuppressive disease, asthma, those are the reasons that. And if you get those antibody infusion, that just means that you won't get as sick. You just don't have a long hospital stay. You'll get over it much faster. So it's really important to get it within the first 10 days. So that's why it's also important to get tested and make sure that you find out whether or not you have it. So then you don't have to worry about your friends and family and people that you're around. Okay, so now we're going to go on with our potato primavera. While the potatoes and the vegetables are cooking, I'm going to make what we call a guilt-free gravy. Somebody's asking something, what is your...
I said, what was your source for all that information?
I took it from several different articles. If you want to email me, I'll send you the source and where I got. I actually took it from several different things.
Okay.
So, okay. I'm going to scoot this over here so you can see well. Go get me a dishcloth. I'm missing the dishcloth. Thank you. This gravy is really an easy one to make. I'm not sure why she calls it guilt-free, but there's not very many calories in it because there's no oil in it. It's just all, well, of course, plant-based. All right, here we go. First thing I'm going to do is to cook the onions. It calls for a large onion chopped, and that's what I've got here. And you're going to saute it, and to saute it, I'm going to use water instead of oil. Just several tablespoons of oil in with the onions, and water, yes, not oil. I chopped the onions up fairly fine because I thought, well, I didn't want them real big in a gravy. Good. I'm using a little induction stovetop or a countertop heater here, and it's amazing how fast that it cooks. I put a lid on there so that it kind of steams them, and I can keep an eye on them because we don't want them to brown. Once the onions have cooked and softened, then we're going to add the garlic. But first we're going to let this cook. By the way, let me show you some of the ingredients that go into this. It calls for, of course, flour. Everybody knows that. I don't know if you're familiar with McKay's chicken-style instant broth. I checked online this morning to see, well, where are the people going to get this? You can get it online. And just be aware that there is a vegan version and a regular and a non-vegan version. So make sure you get the vegan version. Tastes very similar, but there is a difference. When our kids come over, I'd made this particular vegetable soup several times. And when my daughter would make it at home, she said, it doesn't taste the same. What are you doing different? You're hiding some ingredient. I had vegan chicken style seasoning and she had regular, and it did make a difference in the flavor. Check and make sure this is going. Just keep, if you're not used to sauteing in water, just make sure that it doesn't get dry so that it burns your vegetables. This is cooking really nicely. You can see it's steaming away. All right, and then the other thing that is, if you haven't been into vegan cooking very long, these are nutritional yeast flakes. These happen to be put out by Bragg's, the same people that put out the amino acid that we all use. Amino acid, yeah. Liquid aminos, okay, thank you. Okay, anyway, so there are flakes, and I've also found this in powder, but most of the recipes call for flakes, so that's what you want to pick up. Oops, we're getting dry here. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. A little more water won't hurt because, of course, we're going to add water to do our gravy anyway, so we can let that cook. I'm also going to, where's the vitamins top? Here it is. The recipe calls for a half cup of slivered almonds, and that's what I have here. I'm going to put that into the Vitamix. And it suggests there's 3 cups of water that are called for in the gravy, but if you blend in the 1 cup, it'll be a lot easier to blend it up because it'll be a little thicker. It won't have so much water in the way. So I'm going to pass this off to the people in the back, and they will blend this really good. We'll get that started. I'm going to put the garlic in now. Use the end of this and bring myself something. I usually use a garlic press. It calls for chopped garlic, so I very dutifully chopped it all up. It also, as you can see there on the recipe, you can use garlic powder if you don't happen to have garlic. Yesterday when I was trying to, or this morning actually, unfortunately, I had kept my garlic too long, and so it was not as fresh as I had hoped, but I was able to get enough. And of course, we all know that when it calls for 2 cloves of garlic, well, what size cloves is that? A big clove or a little clove? For our purposes here, I happen to use a big one and a medium-sized one, but I guess if you like garlic, use the big ones. And if you don't like garlic so well, you can use the smaller ones. I'm sure you've run into that many times. It says that once you put the garlic in, just cook it for a couple of more minutes to get that flavor in there. Excellent, thank you. I'm going to turn my temp down here so that we can go ahead and add all the rest of the ingredients. We're going to add another 2 cups of water to the blender, plus the flour, 5 tablespoons of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. And then it calls for 4 or 5 teaspoons of McKay's. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, so I'm going to put a tablespoon plus, I guess, a rounded teaspoon. How's that? We'll go in between. All right. And it calls for 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast. I don't want to open this into my nutritional yeast. Oh, I'll put it over there on the inside the tub. You know, when we're getting all this stuff ready, we try so hard to have everything out here, and sure enough, Yvonne gave me that new little container of the nutritional yeast, and I thought, oh, that'll look so much nicer. It's not such a big thing. So I thought I'd bring it out, and forgetting that I was going to need to get into this, and I didn't really want to open that yet. All right, so once again, can y'all blend this real quick, and then we're ready to put it and cook it and thicken it. So Are the vegetables?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, the vegetables and the potatoes are all ready to go. You can go ahead and bring them out, Susie. Excellent. I don't know how you like your potatoes. I love mine baked in the oven. Obviously she says that, wrap them in foil. To me, they're not crispy and nice on the outside when you wrap them in foil, so I baked these. All right, excellent. All right. So we're just going to pour this in here with the onions. And turn up the heat. And if you don't have one of these nifty little gravy whisks, you really need to get one. It's just the handiest thing for keeping your gravies nice and smooth. Of course, this is all blended, so shouldn't have too much trouble with lumps. This recipe is just one that's easy to do for a lunch. It's got lots of vegetables in it. It's tasty because of the flavors and the gravy, and of course the vegetables that we use. And all you have to do is put a salad with it, and if you have it, homemade whole wheat bread or whole grain bread, and you got a wonderful meal. A complete meal, a balanced meal. By the way, about the Oreo crust, my husband came out after I made the Oreo crust and he said, "Where's the centers?" I said, "What do you mean?" Well, he said, "You didn't put the sandwiches, the whole thing in there, did you? You scrape out the little centers?" And I said, "No, the whole cookie went in there." He thought sure he was going to get to eat just Oreo cookie centers. And my family was just sure that you can buy Oreo cookies, just the little chocolate cookies, all by themselves. Well, I went online and I couldn't find any. All they have is crumbs of crushed up sandwich cookies. So you definitely put the whole cookie in, and I think that's part of what holds the crust together when you blend it all together. That with the butter. So one more thing we're going to do with the pie, we're going to make some more coconut cream that you put some chocolate, some cocoa in, and then we're going to decorate the pie so that it looks really appetizing. I'm sure you've found too that if food looks appetizing, people are a lot more willing to eat it, and children particularly, but boy, when things look good, they really want to dig in. We kind of found out how important looks is. When we lived in Florida, our school decided to raise some money by, everybody up here in the north, Kentucky is not considered the north, but it's north for us. We used to live in Florida. Anyway, up here they sell citrus fruit for fundraisers. And we thought, well, we can't hardly do that because everybody has a citrus tree in the backyard in Florida. So how are we going to raise money? Well, we thought if we brought some really good apples from Michigan, we'd be able to make money. Well, when they ordered them, they decided to order field run. Because they weren't pretty, we could not sell them. I went to flea markets. I did all kinds of things to get rid of those poor things, and we had a terrible time getting rid of a semi-load of apples that weren't pretty. All right, this is all done. I'm just gonna, I guess I'll turn it off, because it's, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that it's bubbling very nicely. Looks nice and creamy. All right. Bring me the big white bowl out of the freezer and the other can of coconut cream. Also the can opener. Can opener. And the beers. I am as for the very last thing. Okay. As you can see, I have chosen to whip the last coconut cream in a very large bowl. Thank you. I need a spoon. Serving spoon. We're going to decorate the pie with some coconut cream that has some chocolate whipped into it. No, I need, they're in the freezer. And I need the mixer too. I tried to follow the directions exactly, and it did call for definitely putting the beaters and everything in the freezer, so you have them good and good. I almost decided not to demonstrate this part of it, but we'll give it a shot here. Again, you can see it's all hard right here at the top. It's easy to scoop out. Apparently it's lighter than the liquid at the bottom because it all just floats to the top so nicely, and you can get it all out of there without too much fishing. Here we go. Whip it until it's just really nice and smooth, and then all you have to do, it calls for 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. I like things sweeter, and so I put 5 tablespoons in, and that's what I'm adding here. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of cocoa, and not the sweetened variety, the unsweetened. That's what I'm putting on here. Scraping here, and it'll be all done. And they suggest that you put this into that you pipe it onto the pie. I also did that.
Can you tilt it so we can see it again?
So it's very pretty. Looks like chocolate pudding at this point. I already have some in a pipe. If y'all would get the pie out of the freezer, that's what we need next. I've also got some peanut butter that I heated. Whoops, looks like we need to heat it again. decided to revert back. If you would think that. All right. Perfect. Here is the pie. If you don't have this, you can just spoon it on there. If you don't happen to have all the tips and everything you need to do the piping. But if you do, it's kind of fun to make it pretty. This is, actually, you don't need the whole recipe. This is what I had left over from the pie that I made for this weekend that the family enjoyed.
I can't believe that winter lasted if I was around.
I didn't tell you where it was, did I? My daughter really, really, really liked it. She thought it was great stuff. All right.
Is that salt and the peanut butter?
No. Give it a little bit softer. And even, I'm going to do the potato, heat this up a little bit because I want it a little bit thinner than that.
What is she going to heat?
The peanut butter, I heated it, not in the microwave, on the stove. We did it on the stove.
Yeah, I was doing that.
Okay, so I'll put this stuff aside, and we're going to do the potatoes. All right. All right. I need serving spoons. Can you give me a couple of serving spoons? All right, it says to just cut the potatoes in half and then spoon some of the gravy on before you put the vegetables on so that it can really get down in there. I actually, when I did it, I kind of smash them up a little bit so that it can really get the gravy down in there. Actually, it allows like a half cup for each serving, but obviously you can do whatever you wish. I'm mixing the vegetables up here because I was just getting the one or two kinds of vegetable. And we want to get everything so that we can just pile it on there real nicely. And then more gravy. And that's one serving. Great way to have a potato. Doesn't have nearly all the calories that you might have in a cheese sauce or in a whole bunch of butter or sour cream, and it's really a tasty meal. Put like I said, a salad beside it and some bread, and you're all set. All right, so how are we doing, gals? That's fine. All right. All right, so I'm going to do the drizzling. If you can focus in on the pie here. It says to take peanut butter and some chocolate. I found that you have to really get the peanut butter hot so it drizzles nicely. When I was trying to do it the other day, I was having globs instead of nice drizzle. But this is doing pretty nicely. All right, and then the chocolate. And these are just melted chocolate chips. I put like a tablespoon of water, not water, of almond milk in with about a 1/4 cup of vegan chocolate chips. Anyway, there we go. That makes a pretty dish. when it's all done. Looks good enough to eat. Well, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed our little class. I hope you enjoy these recipes. Like I said, tonight or tomorrow you're going to get another email, and it's going to have a link so that it has a video of how to make the coconut cream, and tells you, how much powdered sugar or sweetener to put in it, whether to use liquid like honey, or also to put, the vanilla in like you would have in a regular whipped cream. Holds in the refrigerator for about a week, but this is one of the things that you can do it. So thank you so much for coming, and if you have more questions, email us. We'd love to hear from you. And next month, we've already talked that we're probably going to do soups next month, because it's just a time of year when soup really tastes good. So Yvonne and I will be doing a number of different soups for you to Let's bow our head as we close our little cooking class. Thank you, Lord, so much again for all the folks that attended tonight. Lord, I pray that each one of them will stay healthy, that they will continue to add healthy foods to their diet so that their immune system is strong and they're able to resist all those flu symptoms and things that are out there. Thank you, Lord, for blessing us in so many ways. In Jesus' name, amen. Goodbye, goodbye.